What decade do you think their last reservoir they built was?
I don't know, 2000?
1970s.
Wow.
Yeah. So population has boomed, and they've had water issues for ever. They've spent $1 billion plus. Well, they've allocated over $1 billion for homeless. They apparently haven't spent. But they haven't built a reservoir. Now that all these celebrities are taking a hit, and it's become, maybe they go, well, why did this happen? And maybe they just go, global warming, we gotta stop it. And Los Angeles goes, good idea. We'll allocate more money towards global warming and less towards the fire department. They go, no, keep that. Cut the cops. They go, okay, we'll cut the cops. This can definitely take a more stupid turn. But perhaps, California will start to take a look at its forest and water management. Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and along with me, as always...
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Bean. That's another thing I want. I get a little button, so it just does that every now and then, like a morning radio thing. Bean. So it has been... Welcome to 2025. It has not ended quietly. Things have been popping this whole time. I think there's two interesting things about the end of this year post-presidential election. I think that's a little different than like previous years. And it's the activity of the incoming president-elect, Donald Trump, and the activity of the outgoing president, Joseph Robinette Biden. The latter being particularly interesting in that he is so feeble. And he just kind of, last we saw of him, he was wandering into the Amazon rainforest after announcing he authorized Ukraine to shoot long-range ballistic missiles into Russia. Good news. We made it through the end of the year. There's no World War III. There's been no strikes of any nastiness over stateside. We, of course, had the drones that we talked about, which we still don't have an answer for. We still have been told they might not even exist, in spite of them flying over a very populated part of the world. This isn't on my list, but I guess we got to talk about it. For New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, or whatever days they were, we had the two not terrorist attacks. We had the man in New Orleans who decided to just drive through a bunch of people on Bourbon Street. FBI said, this isn't a terrorist thing. And they go, what's the name of the attacker? And it was a very Islamic Arab name. And he goes, but he's a U.S. military, U.S. Army veteran, And I think he's definitely a citizen. I think he was born stateside too. He's from Texas. So your Texas Army, I think maybe PTSD or whatever. As time goes by, they go, hey, was that an ISIS flag that they found in his truck? And he goes, what? It's like, it was an ISIS flag, wasn't it? It's like, okay, so we found an ISIS flag, but don't worry about it. So that was an interesting little thing where you have an Army veteran who served in Afghanistan, right?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I should have pulled it up. Well, I wasn't planning talking about it. But he served in Afghanistan or Iraq. I think it was Afghanistan, though, right? And I guess we're told he became radicalized while serving over there. In part, I'm not defending this guy by any means, but one unintended consequence, which I think is something that most governments don't do well, is to consider them at all. When you get into a 20-year war under false pretenses, yes, 9/11 happened by a bunch of Saudis. And yeah, the Taliban was hiding in the hills of Afghanistan, or they were a major political party, what have you. And then from Taliban, then of course Al-Qaeda, they're the ones hiding in the hills, which of course, how did they start, Charlie?
Al Qaeda?
Yeah.
I believe Mr. Bill Clinton helped fund them and arm them back in the day.
Was it Clinton years? Yeah, probably. Yeah, to fight. Well, no, it was to fight the Soviets. It was pre-Clinton.
Oh.
Clinton had a chance to get Osama bin Laden.
Was it Bush Sr. then?
I don't know. Whenever, well, the Soviet Union fell in, what, like 91? Whenever it was. We bogged down the Soviets in Afghanistan and helped train Al-Qaeda. Man, my whole timeline's all screwy on this. But we wanted to bog the Soviets down. And so we taught this ragtag group of freedom fighters how to do some things. And then, like, from that, there was this very wealthy fella named Osama bin Laden. I was like, hey, I've got some plans. You know, like, we got rid of the Soviets. That's good. But what about these guys, you know? So anyway, we helped fund and start them. And then, yes, Bill Clinton did have a chance. At some point, he got a call. He was like, hey, you know, do you want Osama bin Laden? Because we can give him to you. Like, we've got him right here. We can grab him. And he's like, and then I don't know if he ever said no or if the window closed. But either way, it didn't happen. And so our freedom fighters, Al-Qaeda, attacked us with a bunch of Saudis, our allies. And anyway, so we go in, we get bogged down in this 20-year war in Afghanistan, which is reminiscent of something. And so the thing is, when you send a bunch of servicemen over, and then it's like, hey, guard the poppy fields. It's like, what do they use those for? It's like heroin. That's a big part of the globe's supply of heroin. But you know, they really rely on it for funding. You go, oh. And it's like, so the U.S. government, we're going to make sure that the poppy fields are undisturbed, which means no rival factions, rival farmers, rival tribes. Nobody can mess with it because you got the best defense system for your heroin supply in the world. Afghani heroin exports surged during our occupation. Because we're good at what we do.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so you send these guys over, and it's like, hey, you know, what's the mission? Like, just hold. It's like, okay, yeah, but are we gonna conquer? Do we have a plan? They go, hey, look, just don't let bad things happen. There's these guys in the hills, and some of them are embedded in the towns, and they'll probably strap bombs to children and women. So if anybody runs at you, shoot them. It's like, what about a 6-year-old boy? It's like, shoot them. They're putting bombs on them. So you get all these guys over that are occupying the land for no real mission other than to stop terrorism. And a lot of them had to do things that are not good for the psyche. Which is unfortunate. I mean, you understand their position, though, because there were... I don't want to say any of the words that YouTube's been beating us up over, but, you know, they've been strapping the explosives to women and children, sending them towards troops. You know, boom, people die. And so you understand the position where you get jaded, where now suddenly anyone who is not an enemy combatant could be enemy ordnance, you know? And so suddenly your innocents get shot, innocents get droned, innocents get bombed, lots of collateral damage that honestly no one cared about or talked about. You know, the media kind of zip on it to a degree. And it was just, it went on. And so when you hear people who live locally and their chief complaint is being occupied by a foreign country who kills our family, we try to gather for, you know, a wedding, all of a sudden we get bombed, you know, because it wasn't just Bush. Obama was very active as well. And so, you know, you, as someone who's there and you go, I mean, I see why you'd be angry about this. You know, Ron Paul got a bunch of guff during all this when he was saying, hey, this is not They don't hate our freedom. This didn't happen because they got mad about rock and roll and blue jeans. It's because of the way we've been meddling over there. We've been upsetting the dynamics in order to try and get a dynamic that we like, just for those purposes. We want to overthrow those in charge. And, we don't fully understand all the dynamics, or we don't care. And so we take out this group, and now suddenly this other group, the Shia, the Sunnis, like you take out one, the other starts to rise in power. Now the other people are pissed at you because they were doing fine until you intervened, But anyway, so I can see how somebody who has to look at it, look at the faces, like hear these things, I can understand why you'd be sympathetic to the complaints, to then switch over and be sympathetic to the response. I mean, that's a whole nother step, right? But anyway, so we had this guy, he ran over these people in New Orleans. He had an ISIS flag. He wasn't a terrorist attack, right? And then, of course, we had a separate Army veteran, actually active duty, who rented a Cybertruck using the same car rental app. I wonder how this company is going to do. Drove all the way to Trump Tower in Vegas, loaded his Cybertruck up with explosives, made it go boom. Little calculation error. The Cybertruck holds together very well. So windows blasted out. A lot of stuff going upward. Some stuff going outward a little bit, but not. Some people got dinged. No one died. No windows broke. The batteries didn't explode, which is fairly incredible. And all these like lithium. I mean, the whole bottom of it you would think would go up, but I think they could probably use that frame, and they're not going to, but I think they could sell it again. And so that was, I don't know. We're still waiting to hear all the information on that guy, but he did have, his complaint, his little mini manifesto discussed the drones. And he said that is China, and it's some sort of gravitational propulsion system, and that China's been doing it for a while, and they've been launching them out of submarines or what have you, and that they basically have checkmate on us because of this technology. I don't,
we have it too, though.
He did say that.
But not to their extent.
Yeah. And I'm willing to accept there's certain technologies that we are behind the Chinese on. But of course, I don't know why that would make you want to, because the Cybertruck at a Trump Tower, Elon Musk, obviously big advisor, Doge, all this kind of stuff. The message is an anti-Trump, maybe a new American administration, maybe anti-Trump's last administration. We don't have all the dots connected, but so we've had some pretty major attacks or incidents that are politically motivated by our military guys to end the year, to ring in the new year. But then Biden's been active. He passed that rule to make it harder for whatever department that was to require them to do work from an office, make it harder to fire them, sign a new contract with the union.
Social Security.
Social Security, that's right. And so, those people, it's harder to fire them now. And then Biden came out the other day and he said, all right, I'm going to ban drilling both onshore and offshore in everywhere, just all over the place. And the interesting thing is, one of the reasons for Doge, one of the Vivek Ramaswamy complaints, and a number of people, Thomas Massey complains, but a lot of people complain about this. So the whole point of the RAINS Act, you'll hear about it a lot unless they actually pass it. But the RAINS Act, it kind of complements a Supreme Court decision against the EPA for basically saying that the administrative state can't create laws, which is constitutionally accurate. But in the, what was it, the 60s or something, we passed this this act that basically said, like, look, we're going to make these regulatory bodies. And then as long as we don't object to them, whatever they pass is considered law. Like, just pretend we were involved. And since then, that's been happening. The EPA, all these regulatory bodies have been able to just willy-nilly pass law without an elected member amongst them, without our Congress signing off on it. And so the funny thing about the way that the rule that Biden used to ban all this drilling, because you go, executive order, you just undo it day one. Well, you can't. The way this rule works is, as president, you can restrict drilling, just swipe of the pen, but to unrestrict it takes an act of Congress. So, Trump's been saying drill, baby, drill, and Biden goes, and Trump says drill, baby, drill, and a majority of the voters voted for it. And Biden on his way out goes, no. So it's like another thing, just undermining the whole, one of the major things that your opponent beat you on, or beat Kamala on, whoever was running. Did you see her at the Jimmy Carter thing? Uh-huh. She was sitting all by herself with her husband, and like, I don't know. I don't think she was as sour necessarily. I saw a headline saying she was sour about Trump schmoozing with Obama. I don't know if she was as sour about that as she was just looking back, and the presidents are sitting next to each other, and Trump's just, hey, blah, 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 whatever the hell he's saying, back and forth. And Trump and Obama not looking upset, but just to be sitting there on your little island as vice president, that guy's back there. It's just...
all that joy is gone.
Oh, the joy's gone. Yeah, what happened to the joy, Charlie? But yeah, and so another thing that people voted for Trump for was ending all this Ukraine funding, like ending foreign conflicts. The Ukraine stuff's been more egregious than the Israel stuff, because Israel, in spite of whatever damage they do, they are able to stand on their own 2 feet better, though they have been purchasing weapons or whatever. We're giving them money too. We give them less money, and so they're able to do what they do, but it costs us less. Ukraine is expensive, and Biden keeps sending millions and billions of dollars that way. Towards the end of 2024, we talked about it. Oh, he sent whatever $1 billion over. And we said, that's the last hurrah. He's cashing in. Then he sent like $500 million. You're just like, yeah, well, I guess that's the last hurrah. Because like that was in 2024. Well, on January 9th here, I can switch it. Well, let me see. Oh, I forgot. I can switch it. Biden's final $500 million Ukraine military aid to be announced on January 9th, VOA reports, which I don't think stands for Volunteers of America. The final military aid package from the Biden administration to Ukraine, amounting to $500 million, is set to be officially announced January 9th. Voice of America correspondent Carla who cares who these people are? The package, drawn from the Pentagon's existing stockpile under the Presidential Drawdown Authority program, was expected to be the last from the outgoing administration, hopefully before President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration in 11 days. Hopefully, because they announced it on the 9th. Surely there won't be another one in the last 11 days. Despite previous commitments to exhaust the remaining PDA funds, approximately $3.8 billion will remain unused, leaving the funds at the disposal of the incoming administration or Biden to do it again. All right. Bloop. So yeah, that's I hit the wrong button. There we go. So he did it again. Another $500 million. I don't recall a lame duck president being this active to undermine an incoming president's authority or plan, Normally, you lose, and that means, hey, people don't like your ideas, and you go, all right, I'll see you. You do some photo ops, you give out some medals, like to George Soros and Hillary Clinton, for freedom, Charlie. For freedom.
Makes no sense.
What? For freedom, Charlie? And then also Lionel Messi. I mean, he's awesome.
Bono.
I mean, he's that, yeah. I mean, you can give him to whoever. I don't know why. I think Lionel Messi is just one of those, like, you brought the world together with your great soccer. I don't know. I mean, he's a good soccer player. He's great. Argentina, go. But, so you got all that from Biden's side. Even if you're 2 terms and out, right? If your VP or successor doesn't win, like Obama didn't go crazy with Trump coming in. Like he I don't know, he set up his Netflix deal. He did whatever he did. I don't even know what he did. But he wanted Hillary to come in and continue the plan. But I don't know. And also, Biden's obviously not doing this stuff. He doesn't know where the hell he is. What?
Do you remember the smile he gave to the camera, though? Like, it was, I don't know if it was in November or December, but he was walking off after a speech and stopped and turned back to the camera and just gave this, sinister, I hope you're ready for what I'm about to do.
I don't remember that, no.
It's ingrained in my head, and seeing all this is just like, okay, great.
The thing is, when he smiles like that, you kind of think, maybe he's looking to go, I made a stinky.
Yeah.
But it's obviously his team. I mean, people are coming out talking about how bad it was that they didn't want to talk about before the election. But it was bad. He didn't, we only worked a couple hours a day, or he only worked a couple hours a day. They had, there was more. It was a lot harder to get to him. Like, a lot of things went through staff that would typically kind of get to the president quicker. Excuse me. According to Democrats, this is not just Republicans throwing hate. The other thing that's been interesting is Trump's been active. He, when Biden got elected, he created a fake seal that said Office of the President-elect. Right? Had a seal. He had backdrops, and so he'd talk at a podium. And it was one of these things like giving off the impression of being a president, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was weird, because you go, hey, you're not president, and you got a presidential seal, kind of, you're pretending like there's an office called Office of President-elect to flex authority that you don't actually have yet. Trump's just been doing things. He just shows he does a press conference and he's got a couple flags behind him, but no seal. And he talks to people and he just is like, hey, I'm in charge. I'm not yet, but in 10 days, a couple days, I will be. So we can wait for this, but why wait?
Warming everyone up.
Kind of. He's not going casually. I wouldn't call any of this a warm up. He's coming out swinging. The Republicans had a continuing resolution that was 1 trillion pages long. Elon Musk came out, opposed it vocally, riled up a bunch of people, vocally opposed it, and so they ended up passing a different continuing resolution to keep things going only till March. But I saw a picture from, I can't remember if it was Massey or someone else, but it was what was proposed, stack of papers, what was passed, stack of papers, So is it good? I don't know. I'd rather see it shut down. I think they raised the debt ceiling too. Trump was in favor of that because I think until you make any real moves here, you're going to keep going into debt. It's going to keep happening. You can't do much, I guess, without it, but hopefully he comes in slashing. But one of the newest things, and it has people all aflutter, as he has come to talk about his wanting to add Canada, Greenland, and to the United States and recapture or take the Panama Canal as an American thing, run it, and people are very upset about this. So let's see about. I gotta hit my All right. So Danish officials, because apparently the Danes have control over Greenland. Danish officials fear Trump is much more serious about acquiring Greenland than the first term, because he talked about it last time. Let's see. When President-elect Donald Trump mused about buying Greenland from Denmark during his first administration, the Danish prime minister called the idea absurd and rebuffed him outright. Now, Danish officials are being warned by Trump allies and advisors that he is serious. Multiple Danish officials told CNN they're carefully weighing how to respond without sparking major rupture with a close ally and fellow NATO member. We should get out of NATO. The ecosystem supporting this idea is totally different now than it was in 2019 when Trump... This seems much more serious. Trump said on Tuesday that we need Greenland for national security purposes. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it, but if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security, he said from Mar-a-Lago. Look, see the little United flag and all that gold right behind him. He's like, don't forget. Okay, asked about it. Blinken says, it's not going to happen. We shouldn't waste time. But Danish officials are more concerned. Let's see. To that end, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen signaled on Wednesday that the country wants to discuss the issue more with the incoming Trump administration. We are open to a dialogue, I assume that's what he sounds like, with the Americans on how we can possibly cooperate even more closely than we do to ensure that American ambitions are fulfilled. Okay, whatever. The U.S. has long worked closely with Denmark in the Arctic and in Greenland, where the U.S. maintains its northernmost military base. Trump also warned Tuesday that Denmark could face steep tariffs if it does not give up control of Greenland and refuse to rule out military action to take force. Donald Trump Jr. went there. Greenland has long been seen as a key U.S. national security interest, particularly to repel a possible Russian attack. Still, U.S. and Danish officials say they don't understand the obsession. All right. So, he's talking about he wants it. He wants it, Charlie. And I don't know. What do you think about all this?
I'm just surprised that, their response was weird. They're like, we're open to discussing.
Well, they.
And Trump's threatening tariffs. What goods?
And there was a question about, I forgot to look this up, but the military force thing. I know with Canada, he said, no, economic force. But with Greenland, did he actually say he'd use military force?
Yeah. I didn't hear it, so I don't know if he said it in, a serious manner or, Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
It's one of those things, I always have to, watch the clips because, a lot of people still write about him proposing a Muslim ban. But when you actually watch the clip, he's walking through a line of 1,000 people. Like, and someone yells, are you considering banning all Muslims? Yeah, we're going to check out all the plans. And you can tell that he's not necessarily hearing anyone. We're going to check out all the plans. But from that, you have the Muslim ban. And so it's one of those things I always try to watch the source material. One, because he riffs and says crazy stuff where he's tongue-in-cheek. And, jokes don't land in print, especially when people are intentionally taking jokes out of context. But it is, he is serious about it. And so it is one of those things where if you're Denmark and you're this tiny little country and you go, we got control over this big old island that's kind of connected to North America and somehow is also Europe, it's pretty close to Canada, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah, what could we do if America really wanted it? Because, I don't think we should do this. But imagine if America's military was like, hey, we're taking Greenland. What's Denmark going to do? And NATO, they have, a mission to defend nations against Russia. What about each other. I don't think they got any, any agreement in that. All right, so let's see. CBS says,
Maybe that's why he's saying it.
it's a position. He also said he's going to tariff the hell out of them and all this other stuff. He just loves those tariffs. All right. Where is Greenland, and why would Trump want to control it? Greenland's located in the northeast of Canada, largely covered by the Greenland ice sheet. It's a large, okay, whatever. Okay. Yeah, it's close to Russia. Trump said we need Greenland for national security purposes. And all right, look at this graphic here, because it's more of a globy kind of way. I mean, you see Alaska, you can see Russia from your front porch from Alaska. And then if you go the other way, Greenland is between Canada and a lot of Russia here, especially if you go across the North Pole, if the elves don't stop you. Let's see. The Northwest Passage, or Northern Sea Route, was first... Oh, now look at that. Shorter route. Western powers have already voiced concerns about Russia and China using it to boost their presence in the North Atlantic. So, you got this kind of ambiguous area that the vacuum is being filled with China and Russia being like, all right, let's kind of get here and control. Because, you hear the stories about Russia planting a flag at the North Pole from a submarine or whatever to claim it. And you go, what's that about? But then if you look at if you go, okay, well, if that's Russia, all the way to North America, then why can't they set up missiles on the edge? Basically do the NATO thing, but for Russia. The Americans have a strong interest in overseeing the activities of foreign countries in Greenland because it's such a big security asset for foreign states. And due to that, any investment or activity from the American point of view may be seen as a security threat. An associate professor at the University of Copenhagen said, all right. And yeah, Greenland and Denmark, it's gotten tense between those two because they're a colony and they don't want to be. They're like this self-governing island nation. And they go, hey, we'd really like to not be part of Denmark. We'd like to be our own people.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so there's already that. Excuse me. All right, so he's noticed the tense. So Greenland also has oil, natural gas, and highly sought-after mineral resources, including gold. They've only been lightly explored and developed, says this cat, Jose Fernandez. They may have significant reserves of up to 31 different minerals, including lithium, graphite, both of which are needed to produce electric vehicle batteries. Those deposits are likely to draw interest of Elon Musk. I don't think Elon Musk is like, yo, go take Greenland so we can get the lithium. Currently, lithium production is dominated by Australia, Chile, and China. While China produces about 65% of the world's graphite. Imagine what happens to our pencils. They have the potential to provide a significant amount of rare earth minerals like neodymium, which is used to make the magnets used in electric motors. And China makes most of that. The world is currently too dependent on a small set of actors for mining and processing many critical minerals. Demand for rare earth minerals is outstripping supply, yada, yada, yada. And one of the issues, I saw this clip of some dude talking from Greenland, and he was just he's like, please buy us, Donald Trump. Please buy us. And let us mine. Denmark doesn't let us mine. So I think Denmark's able to set environmental restrictions. Is what I gathered from that. I don't know. So part of me wonders. Trump is big into presenting a big concept, right? And it sounds awful for the other side, And so then you go, hey, let's work towards the middle. And oftentimes, Trump's goal is closer to that middle, the story about Trump Tower in New York, so when they were building it, I forget who it is across the street. They opposed it, right? And so, like, Trump had the land. He was trying to get a permit. It goes through this approval process where, interested parties can weigh in. And who was it? I forget. Somebody big, a big museum or Saks or something like that. And they said, we don't want this. We don't want this tower. And so Trump goes to them and he goes, look, here's the drawings for my big, beautiful tower. It's so beautiful. Most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So we can build this, or if you don't let me build my tower and I have to build something else, I'm going to build this. It was just this monstrosity, it was fell below the height restrictions, all the stuff where you go, I'm allowed to buy this thing. How you want this? You want to look out your window every day and see this? How you want that? How's that going to do for you? And so they go, all right, build your tower. Bring all the people to live there in your luxury tower. Please don't build the garbage thing. And so he obviously never wanted to build the garbage thing. It was just, I'll just build this one instead I can't get approval. So I am wondering if this Greenland thing is actually to work towards Greenland getting their independence from Denmark. And we already have military bases, but if I imagine that the government body there would be very favorable to the United States if they were able to tip those scales and get Denmark to go, okay, whatever. They're independent now. We're fine. They're independent, And then we go, all right, well, we get your rights on lithium, right? We buy it, or maybe they give us a mine the way China gets stuff out of Africa. But I'm wondering if that might be the actual move here, is not to acquire Greenland, though multiple presidents have tried to in the past. If the ultimate goal isn't just like, all right, you're your own independent thing, but you're one of ours, one of our little puppet states, You kick out China, you kick out Russia, or whoever, But like we don't own you, but we kind of own you. What do you think about that?
Well, I absolutely agree, and I also think it's partly just location with respect to Russia, as you can just go right over the North Pole instead of around the world.
Yeah, I think for when it comes to like security, that's definitely the argument. And they push back to it, but you already have military bases here. And, could have more. But no, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like, I think the difference this time around, both in Trump, big difference this time around, both in Trump acting before he's inaugurated and some of these things, is like he does have much more support, and a lot of the opposition last time is not enthused or engaged. When he won last time, I mean, the protests, marches, like all this stuff, it was constant, and it was, figure out how to impeach him, and the Russiagate, all this stuff. It was just this constant, full steam charge, and they wanted to undermine him, get him out no matter what. This time, there doesn't seem to be that. You got Democrats saying they want to be part of Doge. It's just Mark Zuckerberg the other day came out and he's like, hey, this new administration is more about free speech. And so we want to go that way. We're going to get rid of fact checkers and go to more of the community notes like X. Like even like saying we're going to do what our rival does. Like, yeah. I mean, granted, like Instagram plus Facebook plus WhatsApp is much bigger than X, but to be like, yeah, we're gonna by name do it their way. We're gonna allow you for politics to get to you. We're not gonna subvert it theoretically, and we're not gonna use all these fact checkers. I mean, that is a massive thing, whether you believe Zuckerberg or not. I mean, there might be. It's probably not going to be all that he's selling, but it is still a sign of the lack of resistance or the size of the resistance, And so when you're Denmark or anybody else and Trump starts talking, instead of him having a million obstacles in a million directions, including like, he didn't even get the majority of the voters, he lost the popular vote and all that stuff. Like this time it's like, oh, is the will of the American people behind this? And what does that mean?
I also think Zuckerberg might be concerned about Blue Sky too.
Blueski?
Yeah. Blueski. Now I'm going to call it Blueski.
That's, I heard Shane Gillis say that. He's like, when I kept seeing it, I thought it was Blueski. he's like, then I heard someone pronounce it. I was like, oh, okay. But ever since then, all I can say is Blueski.
That's great.
Yeah.
Of course Shane Gillis would say that.
Yeah. Old Blueski. No, I don't think anybody's worried about Blueski. But yeah, so that's, I don't know. That's where I'm leaning currently, is that this whole business is not really about acquiring it. I think if they named a price, suddenly, yeah, we'd buy it. I think Trump would negotiate, but he'd pull the trigger on that. But I think the idea is to put enough pressure so that when Greenland goes, no, we don't, we like America, but we don't want to be part of America. We just want to be independent. That Denmark goes, hey, how about that one? What if it's not ours anymore? And we go, all right. And then the Panama Canal is an interesting one. This article that I'm still reading here from CBS News. What did they say? Trump said, all right, here we go. Trump said that the United States needs the Panama Canal for economic security, falsely alleging that it's being operated by China. And then Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino has disputed there is absolutely no Chinese interference nor involvement in anything to do with the Panama Canal. Well, that's not necessarily true. So that is kind of plain semantics. At some point, Hong Kong was sending a bunch of stuff through there, when companies were. And so they, you have to buy, you buy passage, right? So it's windows and all that kind of stuff. And so these Hong Kong companies had a lot of the premium rights of passage and all this kind of stuff. And the U.S. was like, yeah, that's cool. Hong Kong was independent. It was a British Commonwealth or whatever. And then they were like, all right, well, it'll be independent for a while. And then in 50 years, it'll become China. Fast forward, what was it, a year or 5 years, whatever later. And China was like, yeah, we're not waiting anymore. And so the thing is, Chinese companies, not the Chinese government, they still have kind of premium run on this, right? And in the U.S., one thing that our Navy does is helps ensure safe passage of U.S. merchant ships in certain areas. That's why they might be hanging out. They're not hanging out. I mean, they do exercises and all that kind of stuff, but they're not just hanging out for fun. It's to make sure that people, that hostile nation doesn't suddenly go like, you come through the Strait of Hormuz and see what happens. We'll go ahead and take your booty. And so I imagine that China has similar things, because Trump's talking about how there's soldiers, or Chinese soldiers at the Panama Canal, and that can't happen. And so you think like, okay, it's a canal like the Strait of Hormuz that you have a high volume of ships going through. Well, you don't just show up and go home, show up and go home, show up and go home. Typically you hang out, that's how you make sure that people don't get squirrely. And so if China is ensuring safe passage of these private companies that are passing through it, well, suddenly you have, China's very good at technicality. We're not doing that. Like, we're not occupying the land. And it's like, are there any Chinese military on site? And you go, yeah, maybe. But we're not occupying it. We don't run it. And so, okay, do you own most of the contracts? Listen, we own most of the contracts. We guard the contracts with our military. But it's like technically China doesn't run it. Technically, it's not occupied. Just like technically we don't occupy places. Technically we fight for freedom or whatever we do. But it is one of those things like we did build the damn thing. And so I don't know. This one, I don't know exactly. Let me see it through here.
Those contracts are expensive too.
I'm sure they are.
I think they're like $250,000 or $500,000 a piece.
Is that right?
To pass through, I think once.
Well, I mean, Ben, you think about how much it costs to not do it and go down around the horn.
Yep.
And it's just like, yeah, fine, I'll pay it. I mean, that's a long trip. And so China has also denied trying to claim any control of a canal, with Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning saying in December that Beijing would always respect Panama's sovereignty right over the canal and recognize the canal as a permanently neutral international waterway. Permanently. Yeah. I've got my doubts. So, Panama Canal, I think that is a proactive. I think it's twofold, right? I think it's a proactive consideration of a potential military conflict with China in the future. I think it's one of those things where you go, listen, if it happens, if it pops off, we don't want them shutting down the Panama Canal and interfering with those lanes. That'll be bad for moving our Navy from, the East Coast to the West Coast. I think it'd be bad. It'd be, bad for China to have a bunch of troops coming from the south, and also make it easy for China to get west to east. I think it's like that. I think it's part of his tariff war with China. I still don't like tariffs. I'm still a lot more friendly if you eliminate the income tax. A lot more friendly. But China is like this currency manipulator. Like China, their advantage over the United States is twofold. A totalitarian control over their currency and their economy, where they go, yeah, this is what this costs. And part of what makes that work is slave labor. And, when you combine slave labor and a totalitarian grip, you go, hey, this is cheap. You go, in America, we go, we like cheap. We'll buy that, But they do it, they do it in this currency manipulation way. And so it's not real. Like costs aren't real. They're able to really play the game. I think in the long run that actually, it's showing that it actually hurts them. Their currency currently, they're not able to squash it like they used to be. Inflation is really getting out of control. There's thought that the more affluent in China might start stashing their cash in Bitcoin and crypto, which would be great. Just because of the way inflationary pressures are going, and there's no reason for them to stop anytime. The inflationary pressures, they've played economic warfare on the sly for too long, and it's catching up to them. So it's one of my things about it is it hurts our manufacturing, it hurts our industry, and that China can pretend their costs are lower than they are, and then sell it to us at this. But they sell it to us cheap and take away our industry in a multi-pronged attack, for lack of a better word. Total warfare is what I believe it's called. You attack economically, you attack through maybe dumbing down of society through TikTok, and you do all this stuff. So it's a multi-pronged front. But I think, I don't think taxing the citizens is the way to get out of it. Once again, unless you eliminate the income tax, and then I'm down to talk. I'm down to buy less cheap China stuff. especially if it gets less cheap. And like I've been thinking for a while, like in terms of t-shirts, I have too many. I keep having to throw them away or turn them into like shop rags, you know. And then next thing I know, my drawers are all busting at the seams again, and it's because they're $20, $25. And I go, hey, that says something funny, or I like what that thing says. And if but and a lot of stuff's made like crap too. The seams aren't what they used to be. But at the end of the day, if suddenly I had to buy, a $50 shirt that lasted the way, lasts a lot longer, made in America, all that kind of stuff, I'd buy fewer for sure. But I don't know if that's a bad thing. I have this flannel I've been wearing since it's been frigid in Florida. I wear it occasionally, but it occurred to me when I was walking my truck, it's actually my stepmother's father's flannel. So I've had it for, I don't know, 30-ish years. And at that point, I don't know how long he had it before that, maybe a decade, maybe 2. But, this is a 30 to 50-year-old flannel, and it's doing fine, Things aren't like that anymore. So I don't know. I don't like the tariff way of going about this. It might be effective. That's what with the Canada thing. We'll just tariff the hell out of Canada. But I think a lot of that is to put a thumb in Trudeau's eye and to try to tilt the election in Canada towards the Conservative Party. With a guy, remember that video of that guy that just shut that reporter down while eating an apple?
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, people say, it's like, what people? You could take a page out of Trump's book. What page? What book? What are you talking about? He's like, just say. He's like, well, some people say who. He's like, do you say it? He's like, well, I'm like, I just love the whole casual.
I was wondering, like the whole Panama thing in China, BRICS, is that another reason because China has gone after Latin America trying to join BRICS, and so is Trump trying to take back Latin America in some weird way by controlling the canal?
Well, he has said that if any country participates in creating an alternate currency for global economics, that they'll be tariffed at whatever percent, he said, 10 billion percent, whatever it is. But he said that upon election, he's just like, if anybody creates another currency, I'm going to tariff them all to hell. And you go, all right.
Well, then you mentioned that the uber wealthy in China might be dipping into crypto. Well, there goes BRICS right out the door.
Right, right. Oh, and really, yeah, good.
Interesting.
Let's fly, Bitcoin, fly.
Yeah.
Just saying, I got some things to do. All right, so now, how far are we in?
50.
Yeah, I've been chatty. I'm a chatty Kathy. All right, well, one of the biggest things happening right now that, of course, everyone knows about is the Los Angeles wildfires, the number of fires that are just tearing through. And many homes are just burnt to the ground. My buddy Duncan works over at UCLA. He posted a picture, leaving work, where you can just see fiery clouds above the horizon with the sun, on it and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, you see these flybys, and it just looks like landscapes of hell, And, we had Florida flooding. We had North Carolina destruction. But, before that, of course, Hawaii fires. And so, I mean, as far as massive incidents, this is another massive one. But the wildfires in California happen constantly, and you can't ignore the policies of the region. So here's one. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass faced scorching criticism Wednesday as it was revealed she cut the city's fire department budget by $17.6 million ahead of this week's devastating fires, as she prioritized funds for its massive homeless population that largely went unspent. Once again, the homeless thing is another thing that's their fault. Suddenly, just out of the blue, all these homeless people. The cut was the second largest in her fiscal budget. And it wasn't even the gutting she wanted. If she had it her way, they would have slashed it by $23 million. So she negotiated it down to 17.6. LA budgeted $837 million for the Braves in the fiscal year, which was shockingly 65% of the 1.3 billion slated for the homeless. Hey Charlie, if I was paying you, I don't know, $400,000 a year to manage the homeless problem, how long would it take you to solve the homeless problem?
I would solve it very quickly.
Why? Then you lose your salary of $500,000 a year. I'd never solve it. I'd be like, yeah, we're working on it. All right, let's see. Her budget cuts resurfaced as the fire department issued a rare plea asking off-duty firefighters to join the battle against the 3 massive wildfires burning across the city, which were kicked up Tuesday by 100-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds and have proceeded to grow by the hour. At least 70,000 people have been ordered to evacuate from their homes. That's one dude. An LA developer, Rick Caruso, says, it's all about leadership management that we're seeing a failure of. All these residents are paying the ultimate price for that. And this whole time, the mayor was in Ghana as part of a U.S. delegation to welcome in a new president in Ghana.
It's convenient.
Yeah. You know which other president this mayor was a big fan of? Justin Trudeau's father, Fidel Castro.
Ah.
But no, for real. Like, she used to go over to Cuba all the time, and part of a delegation of people training in radical, I don't know how they, activists, I guess, but she was a leader in this group that, I don't know, enjoyed Fidel's methods and wanted to help bring those to America. And when he died, she said that she was in mourning for the Cuban people that lost a great man and leader. Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that dressed up his men like Batista's men and went into houses and did the type of assault I've been told not to say on the show anymore. And then people said, oh, Batista's men, they did that kind of assault to my family. And they go, I like that Castro guy. It's like, that's right. Which, I mean, it's a brilliant tactic, but he's a horrible human, or he was. Now he's dead. All right, the fact that, okay, whatever. Okay, yeah. Amid reports that the LA fire hydrants have run dry as firefighters battle flames, Caruso says she's directly to blame. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is on a taxpayer-funded trip to Africa as part of the Biden administration presidential delegation while her city is burning to the ground, wrote American First Works president, whoever though. So here's a little picture of the different fires. This is something I didn't really understand until I saw the graphic, that there are 4 fires that are burning, which is pretty incredible that they're coming from all those different directions. Santa Clarita and the kind of northwest there. And these aren't the size of the fires as much as the evacuation zones, but, you know, the hurt
smoke and stuff.
Well, yeah, just where people, like the Palisades, 17,000 acres, Hearst Fire, 855 acres, Sunset Fire, 42, Eaton, 10,600 acres. That's Pasadena. So it's a lot. It's a lot burning. Here's some photos of just people doing stuff. I'll get to that later. At least 5 people have been killed, more than 1,000 buildings destroyed. Pacific Palisades fire burning in the northwest corner of LA is over 15,000 acre. Okay, we already just talked about all that. So one thing that so we got to talk about. Well, hold on. I guess before we talk about that, let's check her out. So the mayor got flagged down by Sky News. I think this might be in a final leg back from Ghana, based on where she's walking. Let's see old Mayor Lance Bass of, was that Backstreet Boys or New Kid or NSYNC?
I don't know.
I never know the difference between those two. Anyway, so Lance Bass, the mayor, is confronted. Go ahead, Lance. Do we have volume? Do I need to do something with volume? Yeah, what happened? All right. Well, you do what you do while I talk about Lance Bass. Do I have it muted? Is that thing on the right input here? Yep, headphones. Well. Oh, is an input in there? Well, so one thing you always have to consider is the policies, right? So one of the policies we talked about is of course, is the firefighters. You know, she gets in, and out of the budget, out of all the things that one can mark off in a budget, the firefighters was not the biggest cut, but was the second biggest cut. And in California, there's wildfires all the time in the Los Angeles region. You know, it's not even surprising when there's wildfires that happen so much. And one of the reasons for that is the forest management. If a tree falls, like a beautiful redwood that's 100 years old, if one of these things falls, you're not allowed to clear it. It just sits there and it gets dry and it turns into a matchstick. It turns into kindling. You want to try it again, or should we bail?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we'll just bail on it. That's fine. This guy ran up to her and was just like, "Do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say?" And she just responded like, "Oh, here, I'll just drag through it. We'll see it in fast forward." So she just sits there not talking. She's just looking. "Do you have anything to say? Everyone's mad. The city's burning. Do you think you should have gone to Ghana? Do you have something to say?" So look, see how she's standing at this window here? Just in there staring out like, "Oh, what's happening? What's happening?" So what it is she's VIP people. She doesn't have to go through normal airport stuff. So she's like, "Hey, let me out this way," because that's the way I normally go. And she's being questioned. And then this guy's like, "Hey, you got to go a different way." So now she's on the move again, being escorted. And, "Oh, don't you think you owe an apology to those people?" Because, like, see, everyone's getting, this is people getting off the plane. So, see, people are getting off the plane. And she doesn't need to walk through all that stuff. She can go through that no exit, get on a nice cushy car, and drive out of there. And not have to do baggage claim, all that kind of stuff. But that guy goes, "Nah, you got to go out." And so she walks through. The Sultan goes, "Oh, don't you got anything to say? Anything to say?" I don't got anything to say. And so they get here, they get stuck for a while. And then finally she gets out. But she doesn't say one word that whole time. Because, you would think as a politician, you go, "This is a horrible tragedy. I'm totally engaged. I've been in contact with my office throughout this entire thing. I'm glad I'm finally back on the ground. And we're going to tackle this right away." Something like that, You're like, President asked me to go to Ghana. Of course, when I left, there's no way to know that these fires would break out. I'm getting back as soon as possible. But she had nothing. She just kind of deadpanned, and basically all we missed was a reporter going, hello, and her saying, But all right, so yeah. So one of the problems is, in all the woods, when a tree falls, you can't move it. You can't move the damn tree. And I get to a certain degree, you don't want to hinder fungi growth and things like that. But you can't just leave whole trees down all over the woods and expect it. And at this point, you see it. We see it every year. We see it all the time. They always catch on fire. It's like you have to manage the trees. Like when they fall, you got to clear them out. The live ones aren't going to be a problem. But if you have a bunch of, big old trees that fall down and get to just sit there and become great firewood, and you're in an area prone for fires, well, when the wind blows, it just blows right into that fire starter log. And now that's going to burn well. Think about a 20-foot, a 50-foot tree, that's just 100% dried out and ready to burn. Like something like this that catches, it's going to burn for a while, and it's going to burn hot. And when the wind blows, it's going to travel. And if there's another tree right over there that I can catch to, because, it'll catch some leaves, it'll catch some brush along the way. That won't burn for very long, but it'll burn enough to travel. And if it finds another nice log. And California simply will not manage their forest. Beyond that, oh, here. How much? All right. So let's see how much these people get paid for their job here. So LA fire and power officials. We've got. All right. So the top job at the. What's that? What's WP? What the hell does that stand for? Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Top dog gets $750,000. Let's see. Load dispatcher and gets $787,000. Another load dispatcher, $850,000. Electrical service manager, $782,000. Distribution mechanic, damn, good on you, $760,000. Electrical repair supervisor, $760,000. Oh, this is electrical. This is not quite as fun. No, the mayor makes $300,000 a year. That is crazy. The mayor makes $300,000 a year. That is more. Wait, and the deputy, let's see, Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Kristen Crowley, who pushed diversity initiatives, makes $440,000 a year. That's 3 times as much as a U.S. senator makes.
The fire department wasn't diverse enough.
Oh yeah, did you see Adam Carolla's riff on it? He was like, "Hey," he's like, "I've been waiting." What did he say? He was waiting 6 months or something for the call back. And he was like, "When I finally got the call back, I was with this female, and I was like, hey, I remember she was a black lady or something." But he's like, "Hey, when did you apply? I've been waiting for 6 months." And she's like, "Wednesday." And he's like, "Oh," because of the diversity stuff. All right, so these people get paid well. But here's the other thing that they do that's screwy. Is water management, okay? So we'll walk through, but here's potential water. I have to say that. Potential water in California, right? So, obviously, rain comes and goes, and water is affected by that, you know? But you see this stretch, I don't even know what you'd call it, but it goes almost to the top of California, or is that past California? Is that almost to Canada? It goes far north. There's no lines. We need our imaginary lines. But you theoretically have all this water that goes down to this nice little lake down here, and out to this bay. But you can't have that water, Charlie. Do you know why?
Why?
The Delta smelt. You know about the Delta smelt, Charlie.
Nope.
It's a key part of an ecosystem.
Oh.
Now, is it a key part of this ecosystem, you might ask?
I would hope so.
It's an invasive species.
Oh.
So it doesn't belong there. It eats native species, their eggs or something, because it's a tiny little tadpole-type fish, like a minnow-sized deal. But it's an invasive species, but it's a protected invasive species. And so they can't allow the water to just flow. So some of this water has been diverted for agriculture, okay? But then a lot of it's diverted to protect the Delta smelt. So you can't build your reservoirs. Let's see, what's this other one? Here is a nice one. This is a map, a simulated map, mind you, from 1851. And you can kind of see how, kind of like that picture showed, there's water, and it kind of flowed all over the place, right? Into this big lake at the bottom. This says actual satellite image 2013. And you see there is practically no water. I mean, you see the green where you can assume there is a creek-sized thing that still exists, right? It's gone here. Look, let's pull it up on Google Maps. You don't even have to imagine. So here's Google Maps, kind of similar looking thing. You see some green, but where'd it go? So it ends at Tulare Lake, right? That was that big lake we saw. That nice big old lake. So let's check it out. Enhance. 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 And there we have the lake. See the glorious lake, Charlie?
It's a man-made. That's cement on either side of that.
I think there's some dirt somewhere, but yeah, that's normally lakes have like water. Normally it's like bigger than a pond, like circle or globular in shape, and it's got like water.
It's dammed in 3 areas.
Is it?
It looks like there's 3 dams there.
It could be. But so, part of this is they're sending off for agriculture. But look, I mean, this used to be, like, they've got pictures here. Looks like, even here, like, look at this picture. That's not even a big lake. That's how big. You see the channels, how the different ways they go. That's the lake.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just nothing's there. And, like, you can got rid of my layers. Look, so you can kind of see this tiny little thing going up and around. But, like, That's it. That's that waterway. And, like, let's just see how, like, a river shows up, maybe. There's Mississippi River. You go, okay, well, you don't really see that much. When you zoom in, I don't know. It gets bigger. Let's see. I don't know about a major lake. Tulare Lake used to be the biggest lake west of the Mississippi River. And, look, okay, whoops. Where did I just go? Okay, so imagine this is the Great Salt Lake, yeah. So that's the Great Salt Lake. I imagine that was the biggest one west of the Mississippi, unless, well, yeah, all that's east. So I imagine Salt Lake was the biggest one, right? So it used to be the second. Great Salt Lake, you can kind of see from way up here in space. But look at this thing. Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is much bigger than it now. And whatever this guy is. What is that? I still don't know what this is. Mono Lake. Never even heard of it. That's bigger than Tulare. So anyway, in addition to allowing their forest to be lined with firewood consistently, in spite of the repeated disasters that occur, they also don't allow enough water to flow through their state. So what does Utah, what does Nevada do? They build reservoirs, right? Well, Charlie, what decade do you think their last reservoir they built was?
The Nevada?
Oh, California.
Oh, but who knows?
Just guess. Let's have fun.
Last reservoir. I don't know. 2000?
1970s.
Wow.
Yep. So they've been having issues.
Their taxes are so high, though.
Yeah.
I think they could build.
Well, their population's decreased a lot since the 70s.
Right.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. It has gone. So population has boomed, and they've had water issues for ever. Like, I mean, I remember just being in college, and you know when I would go out when I visited Cary out there, right? And so there was watering restrictions, and more than Florida, and you hear about all the water issues. You go, oh dang, that was 20 years ago, and so you go, all right, well maybe someone built something since then, and no, they haven't. They've spent $1 billion plus. Well, they've allocated over $1 billion for homeless that they apparently haven't spent. But they haven't built a reservoir. And the blame, I guess, for the fire hydrants going dry is that they never refilled the reservoir. I guess they have, I don't know how one does that. I guess you just open something and divert water from wherever. But they didn't do that. And so as the city burns, they just, I don't know. They said water inequity, Like both Hawaii and California had supreme water management issues during an emergency when you cannot afford to be talking about water equity or delta smelt or any of this stuff. I don't know how long this fire is going to go. I do wonder if now that so many celebrities are losing their homes, sounds horrible to say, but like, normal people, like, North Carolina, they're still being asked to pay their full property taxes, even though they have no home on it. Everything about the land has been torn down as a vacant lot, and they need to pay property taxes as if their house sits on it still.
If the lot is still there.
Oh,
Some other lots washed off a mountain.
yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, technically, the imaginary line is still there, but it's just nothing.
It makes no sense to me.
You know what it is? They sat there and they go, well, our 5-year budget included collecting this much in property taxes. If we don't collect this in property taxes, we're going to have a budget shortfall. We can't do that. Then we'd have to cut programs. It's like, what programs? Like, a number of them. And so they just go, sorry, you got to pay property taxes. It's ridiculous. And that's good. Normal schlubs, Florida, a lot of our houses got hit. There was some trash management issues. But a lot of, normal people, like our property values are high, but it's, it doesn't make you rich just to be living here, It's a bunch of normal people. Lost our houses, and it's kind of just been, everyone's trudging through and getting back on it. I do worry about the investment coming in on the beaches, though, all those local businesses that got torn up. But California now, you got the rich and the famous and the important people that people follow. So maybe now that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Steve Guttenberg and I don't know, they've been throwing up all these names constantly of people losing their homes or evacuating. And you go, okay. But maybe now that all these celebrities are taking a hit and it's become, maybe they go, well, why did this happen? And maybe they just go, global warming, we got to stop it. And Los Angeles goes, good idea. We'll allocate more money towards global warming and less towards the fire department. They go, no, keep that. Cut the cops. They go, okay, we'll cut the cops. This can definitely take a more stupid turn. But perhaps, California will start to take a look at its forest and water management. I do, there are ways, and I don't even know if California is concerned about fungal, mushrooms and stuff, which are important. Because, they like stumps and things like that. And other areas, they do fine with it and don't have wildfires. They're not as prone to wildfires because you know what mushrooms also don't like is scorching heat. They don't like fire. And so, I can't imagine. And, California is so dry. I wonder if they have much in the way of mushrooms, So it's why? What's the point? It can't be a biodiversity thing. I don't know. It's what's the point? Especially when the fires keep catching. They keep going into places and burning so many houses. Even when they don't burn too many houses, they get really close and it gets really scary and it's really expensive to put them out. And, maybe only a couple houses go and a lot of people are evacuated. But, it just happens so much. You have to do something about it. And, you're not going to be able to stop the wind. The only, you can change how dry it is and how much dry wood sits there. These are under your control. Yeah, well, any big things you want before we go? Yeah. It's been amazing. We got, it's the 9th. We got 11 days before the Trump administration starts. And we can see whether Doge is amazing or nothing. We can see which promises are true. I imagine the tariffs will be true. So let's see if maybe we'll get that income tax down. I know part of, I think Trump said that one of the big things he wants to do right off the bat, he said he wants to make the Trump tax cuts permanent, but whatever, cut taxes fine, but why don't you do a better thing and call the Trump tax cuts, eliminate the income tax or cut it more, do something better than that, But he wants to do that, and then he goes, but no tax on tips is the other thing he wants to do right away, which good. And also, if he cuts out tax and overtime, cool. But I want to, he's only floated the idea of eliminating the income tax, but that would be wonderful. So we'll see. Yeah. Make sure you follow us on Rumble and YouTube, Spotify. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, follow the Instagrams, follow the Twitters, at Loaded Talk Show for those, probably at Loaded Talk for most other places. Till next week, what do you got, Charlie?
Turn off the laser.
Which laser?
The space one.
Which space one?
The Jewish one?
Get your blue roof, son. All right, see ya.